All right, today's lesson is on 3D geometry. This is the first of 2 days that we will be spending on this topic. And we're going to be talking about figures that have 3 dimensions, and so they're called solids because they have 3 dimensions. You can physically hold it in your hand. They're solid in your hand. So the only three that we're going to be talking about in this lesson are cylinders, cones, and spheres, and we're only going to be talking about the volume. So how much a cylinder can hold inside of it, how much can a cone hold inside of it, how much can a sphere hold inside of it. So an example of a cylinder would be like a can. An example of a cone could be like an ice cream cone, right? So like for the can, you could figure out how much soup you can fill in a can, right? For a cone, you can figure out how much ice cream you can fit inside of an ice cream cone. And then a sphere, an example would be like a ball. So for example, how much water could you fill inside a spherical water balloon? Okay, so that's what we'll be talking about.
So we are only going to be talking about the volume, the amount of space that this solid can hold inside of it. That's what the volume is. In order to be able to do today's lesson, you need to have a calculator with you. So make sure that you have something that you can calculate your answers on. So we need to write down what the formulas are for the volume of a cylinder, a cone, and a sphere. Now remember, this R right here is the radius. It is from the center to the outside of the circular part of your cylinder right here, which is called the base of your cylinder. And the H right here represents the height of your cylinder, how high your cylinder went up. Now, in class, we are going to talk about where these formulas came from. So when we talk about it, you'll understand why these formulas are the way they are. For right now, we're just going to get the formulas down. And next time I see you, you will understand why the formulas are what they are. So the volume of a cylinder is going to be pi r squared H. Now I want you to think about it and see if you can figure out why is the formula for the volume of a cylinder this. Okay, if you think about it a little bit, I think you could figure it out. Okay, so now the next thing we're going to talk about is the volume of a cone. So for a cone, the volume is 1/3 pi r squared H. And for this one right here, you might even be able to figure out why the volume of a cone is 1/3 pi r squared H. It has to do with the fact that the volume of a cylinder is pi r squared H. All right. And then lastly, we're going to talk about the volume of a sphere, which is 4/3 pi r cubed. And yes, you are going to have to know all of these formulas. All right. So let's go ahead and apply your information to these questions. In number 1, it says find the volume of a cylinder. So that's important because otherwise you won't know which formula to use. That has a height of 30 inches and a radius of 4 inches. So every time you have a problem like this, I want you to always write out what is the H and what is the R. So the H is 30 inches and the R is 4 inches. And I'm going to use the formula for the volume of a cylinder. So go ahead and look back at what the formula for the volume of a cylinder is and write it down. See if you get it right. Okay, so the volume of a cylinder should be pi r squared H. Okay, then it says to express your answer in 2 ways. I'm going to express it as an exact answer and round it to the nearest whole number. So I'm going to have 2 answers reported, but they are equivalent to each other. So let's go ahead and plug our information in. I know the radius is 4 inches, and I know that the height is 30 inches. So I'm just literally going to plug it into my formula. So volume equals pi times r, which is 4 squared, times h, which is 30. All right. So then I just follow order of operations. I have all sorts of multiplication here, but I also have exponents. So I'm going to make sure I do my exponents first. So when I square the 4, I end up getting 16. So this will be V equals pi times 16 times 30. Okay, now as an exact answer, if you remember, pi is an irrational number, which means it will go on forever and ever and ever. It will never terminate. So my number can get very ugly very fast. So as an exact answer, I don't want to multiply by pi and figure out what it is with a decimal. I'm just going to multiply 16 by 30. So go ahead and multiply 16 by 30, see what you get. you should end up getting 480. So this means that my answer as an exact answer would be 480 pi. Remember, I don't want to multiply out by pi because if I do, I'm eventually going to have to round because there's no way that I could write out every single possible digit for this answer. So my answer right here would be 480 pi inches cubed because it's a three-dimensional figure, and that's my exact answer. So I want you to label that this is the exact answer. All right. But then it also asks you, so we'll call this A. So this is the answer to part A. But it also asks you to find the answer rounded to the nearest whole number. So we'll call that part B, and I'm going to have you figure out what this answer is rounded to the nearest whole number. So what you need to do is you need to grab your calculator and you need to literally just type in what this says, 480 times pi. So on your calculator, let's figure this out. 480 times, this is what my pi button looks like right here. Make sure you get 3.14159, so on and so forth when you press it on your calculator. Press enter. I end up getting 1,507.9644, blah, 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 blah. And because it asked me to round to the nearest whole number, I'm going to go to the ones digit, which is a 7. I'm going to see what comes after the 7, which is a 9. If it's 5 or above, it means I should give it a shove. So this 9 is 5 or above, which means I have to give this 7 a shove, which means that this 7 will round up to an 8. So my volume rounded to the nearest whole number would be 1,508 inches cubed. Okay, and this is not my exact answer because I had to round it. It would have gone on forever if I wanted to write out my exact answer.
All right, question number 2 asks to find the volume of a cone that has a height of 30 inches and a radius of 4 inches. Express your answer as an exact answer. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a picture of my cone that I have. So remember, a cone has a circular opening with the bottom part coming to a point. And it tells us that the radius is 4 inches. So from the center out, I have 4 inches, okay? And it says that the height right here is 30 inches. So this is 30 inches. Please do not get the height mixed up with this piece right here. This is called the slant height on the outside. The height has to be from the center of your cone all the way down to the point right here, okay? And then it says to express your answer as an exact answer. So we'll talk about that in a minute. First thing we need to do is write down what the formula is. And the formula is 1/3 pi r squared h, okay? And if you were to look at this right here, I know the r value is 4, and I know the height is 3. Now, an exact answer, remember, an exact answer means that there is going to be no rounding at all. So here's the thing though, remember we talked about this. If we have pi is an irrational number. It goes on forever and ever and ever and ever, and it never ends. So no matter how many digits I write down, there's always an extra digit that I can write down is in my answer. So at some point in time, I'm going to have to stop writing my answer down, which means I'm going to have to round, which means it's not an exact answer. It's very close to what would be an exact answer possibly, but it's not exact. So an exact answer means that we're going to leave the pi here, and then I don't have to worry about rounding because that's the only irrational number that I have in my answer. So let's plug in our information. We know that the radius right here, it tells us the radius is 4, so we're going to say r equals 4, and we know that the height, it tells us is 30. So let's plug in all our information that we need. So that means that the volume is going to be equal to 1/3 times pi multiplied by 4 squared, and then I'm going to also multiply by 30. Okay, but here's the thing, you guys, you gotta make sure that you follow order of operations, and we have an exponent here first before we do any of our multiplication. So 4 squared is nice and easy. We know that 4 squared is just basically 16 because it's 4 times 4. So this ends up being 1/3 pi multiplied by 16 multiplied by 30. Now the rest of this problem is all multiplication, and you can do it in any order you want. So I'm going to multiply the numbers that are easy to multiply together. See this 1/3 and see this 30? Those are easy. I can just multiply 1/3 times 30 over 1. and I end up getting 30 over 3, which is 10. So now I have a volume that's going to say 10, actually let's not say 10 here, let's say, so the 1/3 times the 30 becomes a 10, so we have a pi right here, we have our 16, and then 1/3 times 30 becomes 10, so I end up getting 16 times 10 right here, which is 160. Now when you write your answer out, you need to write it out with 160 before you say the pi. And this is our exact answer because we don't have to do any rounding at all. So my answer is the volume is 160 pi, and the unit is inches, so we're going to say inches cubed. And then that's my final answer for this, okay? So let me just try to make this cubed a little bit more clear so you can see that that's to the 3rd power. All right? All right, let's take a look at question number 3. Find the volume of a sphere that has a radius of 3 inches. So we know our radius is 3 inches, and this time we have to round to the nearest thousandth. So in order to figure this out, we don't need an exact answer, so we won't have pi in our answer. So let's just draw a picture of what our sphere looks like, okay? So here's our sphere, just like this, okay? And we know that our radius is 3 inches. So we know that from the center, from the center right here, all the way out, we have a radius of 3 inches. So this is 3. So now we have to use the formula for the volume of a sphere. Well, the volume is 4/3 pi r cubed. And the r value in this example is 3. So I'm going to say it's 4/3 multiplied by 3 cubed. So let's figure out what 3 cubed is. 3 cubed just means 3 times 3 times 3, which is not 9. It's 9. This right here becomes 9 times 3, which is 27. So then I end up getting that the volume right here is equal to 4/3 pi times 27. So now let's figure out what 4/3 multiplied by 27 is. And we are going to use our calculator for this. You can do this by hand, but to save time, we're just going to use our calculator. And remember that 4/3 right here just basically means that you're going to take 4 divided by 3. That's all that fraction means. So 4 divided by 3, there's my 4/3, and then I'm going to take that and multiply that by 27. Okay, so I end up getting 36 as my answer right here. So since I got 36 as my answer right here for 4/3 times 27, I'm just going to say that V equals 36, but I still have pi left over. And it doesn't want an exact answer, it wants it rounded to the nearest thousandth. So I'm going to take 36, I'm going to multiply that by pi, and this is the answer that I get. So I get 113.097335, so on and so forth, right? But it says to the nearest thousandth. So this is my tenths place, here's my hundredths place, and then this right here is my thousandths place. So the 7 is my thousandths place. Look at what comes after the 7. It's a 3. So remember we said 5 and above, give it a shove, but 3 is not 5 and above, so all we have to do is keep the 7 exactly how it was. So here we're going to say the volume equals 113.097 inches cubed. And then we're done with that problem. Okay? Please make sure to write down any questions you might have, and I will see you next time in class. Have a great day.